I suppose so. I think you might actually have more of an attachment to the movie overall than I do, and we may talk about some of that as time goes on.
Maybe.
But I think we've said about what we can about the songs themselves. Let's go on to part 3. I think we can sort of compare and contrast and decide which one we like better. These are definitely different songs. You would not say that they were really coming from the same place or going to the same place. Maybe if they had used the sort of more, the non-movie arrangement of Antenna of the Heart, I think you might be able to compare these more stylistically and musically, but because of the version they actually did use on the Japanese side in the movie, it definitely seems like there is very much a disparity there. The Japanese one is more broad strokes, maybe, and the English one is more direct. Do you think that's a fair comparison there?
In a sense, like, on the one hand, the Japanese has very specific lyrics for the metaphor that they're telling, and I am always very partial to that. Like, the Japanese song is telling a very specific metaphor that relates symbolically to the movie. The English side, I would almost say, is more broad strokes because its lyrics relate maybe a little closer to the movie, but there's less of a metaphor. It's anthemic, as you say. It's an anthem. So, as you said, we're really comparing apples to oranges here. It's very hard to say, and there are positive points to both. So, it's so hard to choose.
Yeah, because the approaches are just so different, it is kind of hard to say, to make too many direct comparisons. I'm not sure I have a super strong opinion about which of these I like better. I think that maybe If We Only Learn edges is out, Intent of the Heart, maybe it's vice versa. I just don't have a strong enough attraction to either song. They're both good, but I think they, especially compared to maybe some of the other stuff, really kind of on both sides in this, 3-movie trilogy, neither of them, I think, nails any particular aspects so well, either musically or thematically or whatever, that I feel like I have to, that I can make a super qualitative, statement about either. I think I'm going to call it kind of a tie, but it's another one of those ones that's kind of nebulous, that I can't really say. Neither one of them stands out so much, but yet they are so kind of approaching things differently that I can't really compare them well enough. Does that sort of make sense there, Anne?
It does make sense. Like, for me, it really depends on my mood, I think, which one I'd go with on any given day, because on the one hand, I do appreciate that deeper metaphor about building things for the future. And again, Shoko Nakagawa is the face of Pokemon. Like, when I think of Pokemon, I think of her. So when I hear her voice singing, and one of the better songs in her arsenal, like, for me, like, this is one of her songs that I relate to so much better. Like, it's hard for me not to pick it, but at the same time, I really think I do like Chris Barczynski's If We Only Learn a little bit better, just as a song. It's kind of more in my musical tastes. And there is something inspiring about it, that when I finish the movie and I kind of have all these deep thoughts about the future and Arceus and how we relate to the world, it kind of makes me feel like I want to get up and do something about it. So, but I think If We Only Learn will edge out, but only by like a millimeter for me.
Yeah, because you just can't draw too many lines from one to the other than the fact that they are, related to the same movie, ostensibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think I have a tie-ish here. It's just that there's not enough to differentiate to really. And like I said, it sounds like you might be a little more attached to both of these songs than I am.
It seems so, yes. But that's okay.
All right, well, there's other music to talk about here. Let's start with one thing we usually do talk about. This is the opening thing. This movie, unlike the Shaman movie, does have a sort of proper opening sequence with an actual song. It's in both cases, it's the one from that generation or that season of the TV show. So on the Japanese side, there is High Touch 2009, as it is generally referred to.
Yes.
And then on the English side, we have Battle Cry Stand Up, an extended version of that. First of all, High Touch, there was the TV version. They really did change the instrumentation quite a bit for this version of it, didn't they?
My goodness, yeah, that brass section came out of nowhere. Yeah, no, it's very, very different, very filled out and bombastic, that instrumentation. I don't know if I like it better so much, because the instrumentation is not the part of High Touch that's the selling point for me, but I do like it.
Of course, it is performed by Satoshi and Hikari. I hope I said that relatively close. Ash and Dawn's Japanese voice actors. I do kind of say, looking back at this movie, while they are both present, I don't feel like they're the primary actors in this film to a great degree. Things are kind of spread out role-wise. So do you think it made this work better, worse, or what?
Well, given how many of the opening themes are sung by Satoshi, that the movie necessarily is not about him at all, that doesn't really bother me so much. And given that High Touch, it fits the scene it's in, I think, and it's all about, trying to find the words to, express your gratitude for people and things. So I think there's kind of a more metaphoric application it could take to the movie, so it doesn't bother me. I do think if we didn't have the convention of always having to use the opening themes in the opening, scene, that I would have gone for something different myself, but since that's a thing we do, it doesn't bother me.
I suppose, and I do believe the opening sequence is a tag battle with Ash and Dawn on one side and the other two folks on the other.
Yeah, so like I said, it fits the scene it's in well enough that...
So yeah, they may well have made that decision based on knowing what the song was going to be, so...
Yeah.
They have some flexibility there. So on the English side, we have Battle Cry Stand Up by Erin Bowman, who we will be talking about at length in the next episode, because she does the ending theme for the Zoroark movie. Mm-hmm. But I think I really like this song. I haven't ever seen the Japanese opening with that. I'm very familiar with the song, but haven't seen how it's actually into the opening. But I think the dynamics of this actually fit the opening sequence pretty well. What about you?
I really like this song, and yeah, it just has a sense of Pokemon battle, so it's another just really good choice to fit the scene it's in.
Yeah, I think the only real criticism I have about this extended version is maybe that there's a line that says, "'Cause your friends are there for you." I think it might have been better with "all your friends are there for you," I think is more what I expected lyrically there. Mm. But as far as Erin's performance, she does a great job. You can kind of see why we're going to get more songs out of her in the 4th and 5th generation. And she's since gone on to quite a career. She's not super famous or anything, but we'll talk more about that in the next episode. So I guess the next thing we got to talk about is the score to this movie. Now, again, this is a 4th generation movie, so the score is more or less the same between the English and Japanese version. They're taking the Japanese score and, for the most part, reusing that.
I definitely think if there's the most interesting track on the score is Solar Eclipse Days. That one track. That's probably the most unique, I think, of all of them.
Yeah, I guess they bring back some of the themes for some of the legendary Pokemons from some of the previous movies. Yeah,
and I don't know, I like the musical choices they make for Arceus and Rebirth and things like that, but it's just it's nothing super special. Whereas that's the one song I can pick out. It's oh, something different is going on. Okay.
That being said, this trilogy started off with movie 10, and that has one of the most memorable score pieces, Aracion ever. Do you think this trilogy might have been front-loaded musically?
Possibly, yeah. I don't like thinking of music as something that there's a finite amount, or it's I don't understand why they couldn't have continued to build, but we talked about it then, the movie 10 score was lacking in some ways, except for, say, Aracion and a few other things. Yeah, I really don't feel like they improved upon that in subsequent movies, and that makes me sad. I would have liked to see things build musically as they built story-wise and, thematic-wise, and legendaries, they just got bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it does feel like if they were really going for a trilogy, it feels like musically that this movie should have had something approaching or perhaps somehow exceeding that of the previous ones. But I guess maybe with Aracion being what it is, that was pretty hard to do.
Yeah, and I don't know, it would have been interesting to maybe see them tie back more themes in a more unique way instead of kind of just reusing them, but I don't know. I just feel like there was a missed opportunity here, like especially since things were kind of tying in with the story and with the Pokemon we saw kind of leading up to the point where we met, Pokemon of creation and kind of had a really big world moment. Like I would have liked the musical story to kind of have gone along with that a little more than it does instead of just kind of being there. But
yeah, as we've said in the last few episodes, I think after 10 is sort of the turning point where we don't get as interesting a score as in some of the previous films. There are a couple other musical aspects I did want to kind of touch on here. The Antenna of the Heart singles have a number of other songs. Most of them are not really related to the movie in any way, but there is Get Fired Up, Notch-Eared Pichu.
Yes.
Which is very, very energetic and or Genki is the Japanese word that gets used there. Any particular thoughts on that one?
Like, if it were me, I would purchase the Shoko's CD, which has more of her songs on it. I am less fond of the spiky-eared Pikachu track, but like, I can see young kids really having a blast with it. Like, cause as you said, it is Genki. It's like full of energy and fun. So yeah, Moyo Gizamimi Pikachu, like, I can see the kids loving it. So I don't want to hate on it too much, but if it came down to a choice between me, I would pick the CD track list that has like Seno de Koi Shichae or Glass No Prism.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much. It's been a while, unfortunately, since I've listened to that particular song, but it is definitely energetic there, and I think worth a listen, to be honest.
Yeah, no, you'll have a good time. Whether or not you want to listen to it on repeat is another discussion, but you'll definitely enjoy yourself.
And since we've been using the word trilogy a lot, in the English end credits, they do a reprise of the English ending theme songs from the 10th and 11th movie, so we get to hear a little bit of This Is a Beautiful World and I'll Always Remember You in there. I'm sure, well, I'd asked you earlier, they don't do that in the Japanese side, probably partially for rights reasons, but do you think that maybe ties things a little better on the English side, maybe?
I think it does, yeah, and yeah, I think that's definitely a freedom that the English side has, having kind of contracted everything in-house the way they did, that they can do things like that. I don't think, like, I certainly don't remember any even, like, little riffs off of past movie themes on movie 12 on the Japanese side, and as you said, it's probably for rights reasons, but that's a nice little touch on the English side, I think, that kind of helps tie those three movies together in the way that they're supposed to be.
All right, well, I think, maybe we can give a few thoughts on the movie itself here. I think we should try to start doing that, but to be honest, the 12th movie, Arceus and the Jewel of Life, I think it's a nice movie. It doesn't do too many things. It doesn't have any standout bad moments to me, really. But I don't think there's anything in it that it does for me that hits me super hard as that was really good either. Anne, do you have any thoughts there?
As someone who digs way too deep into Pokemon storytelling, like, there are a lot of aspects of this movie that I really love, and like, the more I think about it, the more it touches me, but it's not the most cohesive, tight movie. Like, whereas movie 10, just 2 movies ago, that started off this trilogy thing, my goodness, that was quite the movie, quite the plot. It just all came together in such a beautiful way. This one, it kind of like had hit and miss moments, and unfortunately, I think a lot of the movies coming after it will be much the same. Like, none of them are going to be hitting it straight out of the park. But this movie does well, I think, I don't like the mood shifts, but when it kind of has a moment of poignancy about creation or about the world and the future, about changing the present for our children, things like that, like when it kind of gets into slightly more heady concepts, I think that's where the movie really shines, because Pokemon is able to tell very broad, very deep and poignant Aesop-type fables. So I think when this movie kind of makes use of the rich lore they have to draw from to tell those deep thoughts about that can speak to the parents as well as the kids, I think that's where this movie really shines. I just wish that they could kind of tied it together a little more solidly throughout the script instead of just a couple moments here and there.
Yeah, I guess I'll agree with you on the fable aspect. I do believe the location is based on like ancient Greece / Rome / stuff like that. I guess the other thing I wanted to mention, do you think there are too many characters in this movie?
No, because Pokemon for me has always been, like, they can tell ensemble storytelling. Like, that's always been a thing. I do think it suffers from the fact that we always have to have Team Rocket. We always have to be following Ash. So, like, that kind of helps, I think, or hurts, rather, with what I was saying, where it's like, things don't tie together the way they should. But I don't think having too many characters is the issue. I think where we focus on which characters when is more the issue. Yeah, no, Pokemon has always been able to tell ensemble stories, so I'm not... That to me, I don't think is quite the problem.
Well, with that being said, let's go ahead and look forward to our next episode. Next episode, of course, is Movie 13, Zoroark, Ruler of Illusions. And on the Japanese side, the ending theme song, Sukuma Switch, brings us Ice Cream Syndrome, which is kind of an interesting title in and of itself, but I think we'll have a good amount to say there. And on the English side, we have the aforementioned Aaron Bowman with I Believe in You. So I think that's going to be a really interesting. Those are two really of kind of my favorite Pokemon songs, certainly of the last couple generations. I think we're going to get a very good discussion out there. But until then, thank you very much, Anne, for being on.
Thank you for having me.
This has been Stephen Reich from the Pokepress Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, discussing the music of the 12th Pokemon movie, Arceus and the Jewel of Life.